All right, so yesterday we have done what? Demographic structure, right? So today we have to start with a very important topic which you call it as population theory. It's a topic of population and settlement geography. We are moving to another important topic which is population theories. Now, what is this population theory? What do you understand by population theory and why they are different? What has happened over the period of time that one needs to discover different theories at different time? What was the reason behind that? So the first we were talking about a very prominent one, which is the Malthusian theory, and it was given by Thomas Malthus, right? Who was he? So basically, Malthusian theory has a different perspective, and it was driven by only one factor, which you call it as food. Malthus said that if your economy, what will happen to that? If economy is increasing, so what will happen? In this case, if the population is doing what? It is increasing, then what will happen? Your dependency on the food will also increase. And when the dependency on the food will also increase, then what will happen? It will lead to scarcity. It will lead to scarcity because the way the population is growing is not equivalent to how the food is distributed or it is growing, right? The way the food is growing is not equivalent to how the population is growing, because the rate of the population, the rate at which the population is growing is quite different from the rate at which the food or vegetative growth happens. So when there is a difference between both of them, then what will happen? If the population is increasing, then the food is not going to increase. So that means your food resources are going to be less as compared to the population. Very good afternoon, Dhruv, Stapna, Suraj. Okay. So what we did in this, a very important thing, he said that population is going to increase. Your population is going to increase in an geometric manner while your productivity of food, is going to increase an arithmetic manner. And if it's going to increase in an arithmetic manner, then what will happen? It will not match this. So what is the problem? What is the gap that you find? Is he not thinking from only one perspective, that is food, right? He's not thinking about the other facts. For example, there could be also the growth of the population can happen, but there could be also the innovation that can take place, right? As you grow, the problems grow, and also you find out the solution for every problem, right? So one thing is that. Second thing, he did not focus on the gaps. What kind of gaps I'm talking about? He did not focus this matter through different ways, right? He did not focus this through different ways means he did not try to entertain the facts. For example, if I talk about facts of war, famine, etc. Right? So there were lacunas in his theories, right? There were other people also who criticized the Malthusian theory. Therefore, we also have neo-Malthusian theory. Apart from that, what else we have? We have the anti-Malthusian theory who did not favor the Malthus theory at all. Neo means contemporary. When you said that neo, Malthus, that means you are still trying to accept the theory, but with some kind of modification. You're having your own modification, you're having your own way of explaining the Malthus theory, but with certain kind of modification. You are not wholly accepting the theory, but you are trying to give your own perspective in that. The third thing that he wanted to entertain was, yes, what are you asking? No, yeah, anti-Malthus. One is your Malthus, next is your Neo, next is anti. Anti means they did not favor that theory at all. They did not believe in that theory at all. Yes. No, Marx, yes. Marx is another theory that you have, right? Marxian theory is another theory. Right now, we are just talking about your Malthusian theory. So, next that we are going to talk, I'm just going to give you a brief that what all theories we'll be going to do in this. One is your Malthusian. Under this only we will do what? There is a question, direct question, which comes alternate year, or many times it has come in geography optional exam. Discuss about Malthusian and Neo-Malthusian. Second, I'm just telling you the order in which we'll be going. Neo-Malthusian theory. Next theory that we have is anti-Malthusian theory. And the fourth one is Karl Marx theory on population. Fifth is your demographic transition theory. And the sixth one is your, what is the sixth one? Optimal theory. Excellent. So these are the theories that you have to focus. Just read, understand first the theories, and then we will go into detail, into the depth of each and every theory. Right? I told you it's very important to understand each and every theory, every topic, subtopic in detail, because this time they are asking about the perspective, and then they start applying the questions in the today's, in contemporary world. Then it becomes difficult to explain for the students who have not done anything in depth, especially these theories. These theories have different criticism also. They have different multifaceted viewpoints also. So you have to discuss them in the contemporary world as well, that whether this applies in today's world or not, right? And how can you describe, even if you have to describe in certain way, then how you will be able to justify it. Sometimes you understand the thing but you're not able to write. That is also a big gap. That is also a problem, that you are understanding but writing is a problem for you. So in that manner you have to understand the topic in such a depth that you are able to analyze, process, and then write also. Okay, so first we are going with, write down, Malthus. Can I say this theory as a pessimist theory? Why? Why this is a pessimist theory? What is pessimism? Yes, it criticizes. It says that do not have children. But what for? Because we do not have resources. What resources is talking about? Food resources is talking about, right? So this is a pessimist theory. And in this context, Malthus is taken as pessimist. Okay, so write down Malthus, a pessimist among classical economists. Among classical economists, comma, lived in England, lived in England during a turbulent period of during a turbulent period of class conflicts during a turbulent period of class conflicts and his writings reflect his position during this turbulent period during this turbulent period. Right? Full stop. Theorized that Malthus theorized that world food resources were not able to feed were not able to feed an excessively growing and excessively growing population. Here in this, I have discussed about the class conflict. Can you just focus on the class conflict that was happening in the European nation at that point of time? What class conflicts that he is talking about? Yes, excellent. He's talking about the conflict between the capitalist and also the bourgeois class, the working class. You also call them as another term for it is proletariat, right? They were the working class which were facing what? Facing lot of resistance. They were suppressed because of long working hours. There was no uniformity, no standardization in the working process that they were doing, and also they were subjugated and exploited to the manner till the manner that they could not do what? They could not meet their ends because the wages of the working class were quite less at that point of time, right? So he discussed that this has to stop now. The population has to come to what? At the minimum level, right? Next, write down from this point of view, from this point of view, comma, he made proposals for he made proposals for controlling population growth, controlling population growth. Second point, controlling population growth. Second point, industrialization, comma, rapid industrialization, comma, urbanization in Europe in 19th century brought poverty and misery. Why the rapid population growth got poverty and misery at that point of time? Why there was a lack of wages? What was the purpose of increasing the population first? More labor means what? And but why the wages were very less? So what is this phenomenon known as? When you have the more supply, then what will happen? The cost of the labor will be less. And do you think that was deliberately done? Was that deliberately done? Yes, it was done deliberately. They wanted to keep the population so high so that the working class, yes, first of all, they wanted that working class should not have Yes, first of all, they should not have the privileges. Otherwise, they will move to some other class. Why would they work in the industry? And second, they wanted to keep the labor cheap so that they can make, capitalists can make more and more of profits. Okay, write down next. Some economists begin to argue that overpopulation brought misery, comma, not prosperity in early 1800s. Full stop. Malthus drew great reactions from the society after the publication of his work, after the publication of his work, and essays on the laws of population growth, right? An essay on the laws of population growth. Full stop. Next point. In the face of both developments, in the face of both developments, comma, he thought about, in the face of developments, comma, he thought about how society could stabilize and how this misery could be prevented, and how this misery could be prevented. Full stop. According to Malthus, comma, people tend to reproduce. People tend to reproduce, and according to the law of, and according to the law of diminishing returns, and according to the law of diminishing returns, which applies to agriculture, comma, it is not possible, it is not possible for the available land to support the population growth, to support the population growth. Write down. According to him, according to him, the population increases in geometric manner while food productivity, while food productivity increases in arithmetic manner, in arithmetic manner. The imbalance between the food resources, the imbalance between the food resources and the population growth must be balanced, must be balanced, full stop. In order to achieve this, in order to achieve this, one needs to control population growth. One needs to control population growth, that is reproductivity capacity of humans. That is reproductivity capacity of humans. So how many of the countries at that point of time actually accepted what Malthus was saying? Everybody can have the different perspective, right? For example, today we see from this angle where we have the Green Revolution, which was infused in 1960 and way before in the other Western nations. But do you think that in the present context, the Malthusian theory applies to the world? Does it apply? For example, if we are saying that resources are less, we should control the population, because according to the World Report by different nations, international institution, the population of world is going to be now 8 billion in coming years, right? For example, in 2050 or 70 we talk about, then it's going to be way high than what it is today. So if we want to interlink the resources, not only the food I'm talking about, any other resources which is present, does Malthusian theory apply on the present context or not? Just let me know that. And if it is applying, then justify, and if it's not applying, then why it is not applying. ये थ्योरी है, किसी भी टाइम में आप इसको अप्लाई कर सकते हो, आज अप्लाई कर सकते हो, पिछले टाइम में अप्लाई हुआ, बट नाउ वी नो दैट ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन वाज देयर, therefore the it did not work. Malthusian theory did not work because the food production got way higher. It was not in arithmetic manner because of the infusion of different technology, hyv seeds. But do you really apply that theory in present context? What are your views? How? Justify your statement. Hmm. 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 Excellent. Yes. So one point she is saying that there is a capacity of the environment to take the things, right? Because the land that has been given around the world is limited. So the carrying capacity of the certain area has to be taken care of. Okay, what is your view? Can we say that theory is somehow connected to the planetary world first? The population is right now rapidly rising, but the resources are not that much. Correct. What kind of resources we are talking about here? Energy resources. Very good. Then there is raw materials for different industries. Okay. Then there is agriculture. Okay. Because in coming years there could be some repercussions of climate change. So they would be affected by agriculture. They would be affected by agriculture. So if in case government says somebody, for example, China has done what? China has said that curb the population, right? You're going to have only one child per parent, right? Every parent will have only one child. This is what you call as top bottom approach, where the command is coming from authorities. That is the way, that is the imposition that you're putting, that the command is coming from the authority, that you should have only one child. Now the second way of manipulating the people or citizens is schemes, right? Through the different schemes you want to tell the people that you should bear the child so that you can sustain well. For example, we had what? There was a scheme in India that we had. What was the name of that scheme? Yes, for population. So see, if you are getting the schemes, that is up to the people, citizens, that if they want to apply that, that's up to them. But it's not mandate that if they want to have the more children, then they can still have that. Okay. Apart from that, there is a third way where the schemes are also not working. There is a third indirect way where you actually raise the prices of everything. The cost of living gets so high that automatically the population gets limited, right? It's get limited. Why? Because as I told you that the living standards are increasing, the lifestyle is changing. So what will happen? People will start thinking about the quality of the life rather than having what? Too many children, right? Because you know the cost of raising one child is too much because of the inflation, right? And when inflation is so high, then what will happen? The cost is more, and then you will think of getting only one or two child maximum, right? That is what it is there. That is the indirect way. There is not, they are not what? They are not doing what? That is a bottom up approach. Yes, excellent. So one is your top bottom approach where the command is coming from the authority. Like for example, the China has done. That is authoritative. One is imposing you cannot have the children more. Now they are dealing with different problems. That is your demographic problems that they are dealing with, that the age structure has dwindled. Yes, it is not inverted yet. हाँ skewed हो चुका है, inverted अभी नहीं हुआ है. हाँ, it is more. So age structure उनका थोड़ा सा that has been skewed, right? But this is called top bottom. Now in between हम आ जाते हैं, so we are trying to manipulate people, we are trying to convince people through the schemes, try telling them that you should have a certain amount of time between the first child and the second child. This is also the way raising the children, raising the women in a way that they are marrying late. Why? So that they can be financially independent first. Even the Malthus also try to say that. So this is coming from the citizens. Citizen खुद अपना initiative ले रहे हैं ताकि what will happen? The yeah, literacy rate is also there. No, but see, literacy rates we cannot predict that. Literacy rate होगा ही होगा तभी आपका it is a choice. See, this is a choice. That is nothing to. Hmm. Hmm. But yes, yes, but yes, that they do exactly. See, what I'm trying to tell you is literacy has some kind of influence on this. For example, it's a choice, it's totally subjective. For example, if a person is literate and is having enough of resources with him and he can raise two or three and more than that child, then that is up to them. Okay, so in that way he's literate, but he is not bound by the other factors, right? So he will do that. In one situation you are being forced to not to do more children, and in one situation it is your choice. तो दोनों में बहुत difference है, ठीक है? तो contemporary world में भी Malthusian approach it still applies, ठीक है? There can be a question like that, so think about it. All right, so we'll continue with this. Write down. As the statistics show, the situation in Europe and USA did not confirm Malthus' prediction. Did not confirm Malthus' predictions, comma, CONFIRM, comma, neither in terms of population growth, neither in terms of population growth, nor in terms of food shortages. Full stop. The rate of increase in food production that Malthus has emphasized was only hypothetical, was only hypothetical. That means he did not have any evidence to prove that whether the production is being made on the arithmetic manner, in the arithmetic manner or any other manner, right? So he has hypothetically given that. This, let me see the comment of Dhruv. This theory could be significant in areas such as Asian countries as food is available, but the quality and the prices are compromised. If this continues and production would somehow be affected, yes, definitely, Dhruv, this can be one of the reasons that you can add. Okay, what is the next comment that is written? Lower classes will get the food, but somehow it would lack the quality. Definitely, that is well made point by him. What he's saying that, see, even if we try to give the food to the people, then there is another segment which comes, which is about nutrients. You're providing the food, but what about the nutrients? Maybe you're not giving the apt nutrients to the people. So nutrition component is as equally important as your food. You cannot survive on all the time wheat and rice, etc. You need to have the essential elements present, nutrients present for your growth. Okay, next point. Malthus focused solely on Malthus focused solely on birth rates as the cause of population growth, comma, ignoring the declining mortality rates in developed countries. And the impact of technology on productivity growth. Next point. Malthus was mistaken in two respects. First, write down the sub point under it. First, it is possible for the population to decrease not only because of starvation or war, but also because the need to have larger number of children disappears as a result of improvement in people's living condition. In people's living condition. Next point. It did not adequately measure. Yes. He did not measure the world's capacity to meet the food and other needs of growing human population. Of growing human population. Right? So this is what one has to say about Malthus. There can be other criticism also, right? So one is this, that he did not focus on, he just focused on one aspect of it. For example, there could be war, there could be other things. But what about the people who by choices are not doing? And also He only focused that the birth rate should be less. What about the technology which is happening, and because of that the people are able to have the higher life expectancy, and if they are having the higher life expectancy, then automatically the age structure would differ, right? Write down. According to Canon, is a scholar, Cannan. According to Canon, according to Canon, write down in double inverted commas. Write down in double inverted commas. A baby comes to the world. A baby comes to the world not only with mouth and stomach, but also with pair of hands. But also with pair of hands. Full stop. Double inverted commas closed. This implies that an increase in population, this implies that increase in population means an increase in men power. It means increase in men power, which tends to give better productivity and also make a country rich by equitable distribution of wealth and income. Wealth and income, right? So what we did that how he approached the theory, right? What were the with that growth? How he approached the theory, what were the problems in his theory, the way he was looking into, and what were the criticism, and now the rest is the history. We know what happened in 1960 with the infusion of the new technology like HYV seeds, right? Okay. Okay. Now we're talking about a neo. What do you mean by neo? Huh? Yes. Neo means that you some changes, modification that one did in the theory, right? Write down the introduction of who has got neo, who has got the word neo Malthus, and how he approached this theory and why he did not accept the whole concept of Malthus. Write down. Neo Malthusian are those who believed Malthus, who believed Malthus. In other words, the Neo-Malthusian or Neo-Malthusian may be categorized as group of thinkers and academicians, group of thinkers and academicians who were agreed with Malthusian proposition, but disagreed with idea of controlling measures. They disagreed with idea of controlling measures. The term Neo-Malthusian, the term Neo-Malthusian was first used in 1877. It was used in 1877 by Dr. Samuel von Hotten, by Dr. Samuel von Hotten, by Samuel von Hotten, comma, one of the vice presidents, one of the vice presidents of the Malthusian League, one of the vice president of Malthusian League. Write down. He agreed that control of the population, control of the population is inevitable. Inevitable means it is unavoidable, right? It is inevitable, and have pessimistic views, and have pessimistic views. That consider the growth of world with fear and alarm. That consider the growth of world population with fear and alarm. Full stop. However, they disagree with, however, they disagree with the other factors. They disagree with other factors of Malthus, like war and famine. War and famine are the major key to population control. They are the major key to population control. So this was not accepted by him, right? They are not the only key, and also they are not the major key for the population control. But instead, they promoted a number of ideals, a number of ideals. Instead, they promoted the number of ideals. For example, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood as the method of population control. Planned Parenthood as the method of population control. Right? Full stop. Now, do you agree that Neo-Malthusian theory is applied? Right? How much, which is more favorable, the Malthusian or Neo-Malthusian? Neo one, right, correct. I'll make you write the answer also, or you will write on your own. But first, let's complete all the points. So next point, write down. Neo-Malthusianism. Neo-Malthusianism is an intellectual movement. It's an intellectual movement that focused on addressing. It's an intellectual movement that focused on addressing environmental problems. Environmental problems, not as a technical one, but as economic and social problems. Next point, इसमें continue करेंगे. He pointed out that the disproportionate relationship between technological expansion, comma, consumption of mineral resources disproportionate. Yes, ask. Technological expansion, comma, the consumption of mineral resources as well as creation of form of pollution and the capacity of the earth to feed its population, comma, absorb pollution are also the factors then that one should are also the factors that one should emphasize on. From where? The consumption of, write down, the consumption of mineral resources as well as creation of forms of pollution and capacity of the earth to feed its population and absorb pollution should also be emphasized on. So one need to understand this very clearly. See, if I see the contrast between what Malthus is saying and what Neo-Malthusian is saying, then you will see a drastic difference. Both are saying the same thing basically. The fundamental view that they are saying is same, that there has to be what? Reduction in population. But the drivers of both of them are different. So the way one wants to achieve the target, for example, this is your end, but the point that he is making and he is making is very different. What he is making is only about food or maybe war or there would be famines, right? But what he is making is standard of living will be improved and therefore automatically the child bearing capacity, not capacity, the child bearing desire would be reduced. Next is what? Because dependency on The world resources will be more. तो क्या होगा world resources से? Your minerals dependency will be more. This will also include the food, all of this. Then what will happen? Because the limited resources are there, then what will happen? Otherwise, if you use something excessively, then pollution will happen. And they did not want to make what? Pollution. So environmentally also he thought the point that for the environment, it is not right because the earth also has a certain kind of carrying capacity. Although they both wanted a reduction of population, but the drivers of Malthusian is different from Neo-Malthusian. Okay? All right. Please add on further. Write down. Neo-Malthusian approach also argues that in developing countries, it may lead to unemployment. It may lead to unemployment. This concept was adopted in, I'm talking about Neo-Malthusian, this concept was adopted in former colonies and economically underdeveloped countries that gained independence after World War II. That gained independence after World War II. These policies are also supported by international organizations such as United Nations Population Fund. United Nations Population Fund. Very, very important point. Okay. Now we will move to anti-Malthusian approach. What is that? Who are saying the concept in itself is vague. That is a criticism. So you want to write a criticism on Neo-Malthusian. The same only, right? Huh. So now we are moving to anti-Malthusian approach. That's why we are moving to anti now. It itself a criticism. The whole approach is a criticism. The fundamental, the basis of the Malthusian theory also they denied. What is the fundamental of Malthusian theory? That the population needs to be curbed, like the population should not happen. The population growth should not happen. Right? That needs to, yes, that should come down. So, वही चीज इन्होंने they try to remove the fundamental of the theories. Write down. Anti-Malthusianism is a doctrine that opposes Malthusian ideas. That opposes Malthusian ideas. They oppose the ideas. Why? Write down the decline in the population growth as decline in the population growth considered as a danger is considered as a danger. Full stop. Anti-Malthusian anti-Malthusianism became dominant in France. Became dominant in France while it was not so prominent in UK and Germany. While it was not so prominent in UK and Germany. Can you tell me what is why, being a European nation, all of them, why the theory was so prevalent in one side of the country and it was not prevalent in the other side of the country? What could be the reason? In where? In which part of the country? France and UK? What is happening in UK then? See, the rate of growth of population in France was only 9%, while in UK it was more. It was good, like more than 50%, right? So France was very apprehensive of this fact that what is happening to my population, why the fertility is so low, right? Because again, you need the population, you need the youth for the economic development. But this was not the case in Germany and UK. The growth was very high, right? Therefore, anti-Malthusian approach was adopted more in France rather than the other parts of the country. Write down. In France, the rate of population growth began to decline in 19th century, began to decline in 19th century. Between 1851 and 1911, between 1851 and 1911, comma, while the German and British population grew by, while the German and British population grew by 57 and 57% and 42% respectively, 57 and 42% respectively, the French population grew only by 9%. Only by 9%. So they were very apprehensive of the fact what they will do, right? The fertility should not go that down also, that they are not able to sustain their light today Japan, right? That is what, that is not a top down, that is a bottom up citizens approach. Citizens ही नहीं करना चाहते हैं, ठीक है? So there is a take the case studies of both China and Japan. In Japan, the citizens are not willing to do. Earlier in China, the authorities did not want to make them to have more children, ठीक है? So that was a difference. Now, socialist criticism on Malthus population theory. So one criticism is this, and then there will be socialist criticism on Malthus population theory. Write down. In the 19th century, there was need for the labor for developing industrial production. There was need for the labor for developing industrial production. Full stop. Since the adult and male population was insufficient were insufficient to meet the need for the labor, comma, both women and children participated in production in families, both participated in production in families under very unfavorable under very unfavorable conditions. Full stop. In 19th century, Europe working conditions in factories were categorized by severe poverty and misery. Categorized by severe poverty and misery. Full stop. One of those who sought solution to this negative situation that emerged was a socialist thinkers who oppose Malthus theory. While criticizing the Malthus for his liberal approach, for criticizing the Malthus for his liberal approach, why it was said as a pessimist and liberal? Just wait a minute. Why it was more of liberal? What do you mean by liberalism? Why pessimism we could understand because there was a negativity that we should not have more population. But why liberal? Do you understand what is liberalism? Hmm? Yes, open. Open in sense of what? No. No, liberal means liberalism is an ideology. I hope everybody knows that, right? So why this ideology? What is that? And focus on what? More of profit maximization, right? By they talking about what? Individual. When you start talking about the individual, the rights of the individual, the benefits of the individual, that is the whole process. And who is a major supporter of it, the major proponent of it? USA. From there only the idea of liberalism has emerged. When they say what? That the focus should be more on the individual thoughts. They should be more on the individual's rights and therefore emerge from their fundamental rights. The better the fundamental rights, what will happen then? The individual can focus on themselves. When you focus on your own interest, then what will happen? They eventually it leads to, but first of all, you're talking about whom? Yourself. You're talking about your self-interest. And when you're talking about the self-interest, you're keeping yourself as a higher pedestal. When you're keeping yourself as a higher pedestal, then what will happen? You will just think from the perspective of profits, your own profits. And similarly, from this only the concept of capitalism arose when they thought about their own profits, right? Extremes, you cannot call it extremes, but you call it as something. Yes, it emerged from it, right? The whole concept is like this only, that the profits that you're talking about your own profits. For example, if I am a businessman, I'll think about my own profits, right? So first I'll keep myself as a higher pedestal. I think of the maximization of the profits. And that was Europeans were doing, the capitalists of Europe were doing. They were maximizing it, right? So he said that it's liberal. Next what? Yes, till where you have written, I'll repeat the whole statement. Just let me read the comment. Hmm. liberal approach, right? Now, Malthus for his liberal approach to poverty, comma, they argued that fertility should decrease in order to increase workers' wage. Full stop. According to socialists, the elimination of poverty required a change in the model of society, comma, not population planning, as Malthus suggested. Last line. The solution to the problem of poverty was to plan the economy, not the population. Look here. So what they're talking about? See, so they're talking about that if you are reducing the population, there is a population reduction. So this is what we are doing from the perspective of working class. Okay, what they said, because this was a theory which was majorly of working socialism, right? Socialist. So what they said, that the population reduction should happen not because there were less of food resources or the food resources would not be the people would not be getting the proper food resources when the population will rise, right? So this should not, you should not decrease the population because of that, but to increase the wages of the labor. Why? Because the labor would get less, the number of laborers would get less. So what they will get? Higher wages. Getting the point? And also they focused on that the fundamental problem is not in planning the economy. So there is a problem in economy planning rather than population planning. So one should focus on economic planning but not population planning. One should change their model. That is what said by socialists. So they altogether say no to Malthus. Say see, पॉपुलेशन पे आप ध्यान मत दीजिए, उसको बढ़ाना है, कम करना है, और अगर कम भी करना है, then the wages of the labor should increase, and this is not done. You should focus on rather different models rather than going for similar models and decreasing the population. ठीक है? That was the whole point. हाँ, right. This is whole. It is criticizing the whole fundamental of it. Na, you should not focus on population, right? Just revise it for a minute and then we'll move forward. If you have any doubt, just ask. Online students, please ask if you have any doubt. Dhruv, have you got the syllabus of human geography? I hope you have got that. Was that uploaded on the portal? Good. What about you, Stapna? Online students, just raise your hand if you've got the syllabus. From website I got. Okay, done. Write down the question. Have you done the questions which are given to you yesterday? How many questions I've given to you yesterday? See, PYQ are very important to refer, right? And after every topic, I'm referring to PYQ. How many questions I've given? 4 questions I've given. Okay, so on age structure and attributes, right? Write down. The question has appeared in CSE 2020. Write down. Compare and contrast. Compare and contrast Malthusian and Neo-Malthusian perspective in the context of the population growth, comma, resource use and environmental impact and environmental impact. I hope you will be able to write now. You have enough of material to write in this. Achha, have you written this question yesterday? I just forgot to mention this. Assess the challenge for the countries. This is exactly the case study that we have done of Japan, right? So that case study will be very helpful in answering the question. Write down. Assess the challenges for the countries with the largest share of. Assess the challenges for the countries with the largest share of aged population. It has come in CSE 2019. Aged population. CSE 2019. We have not done the Marx yet, right? We have to do Marx theory on population. Huh? Optimal, yeah. And there's one more. Demographic transition theory. Okay. Now we'll quickly move to next theory, which is, yeah, for now it's one. Actually, I wanted to actually make you write one assignment question on Malthusian only. Write down. Explain, or you can write discuss. Discuss whether Malthusian or Neo-Malthusian theory is apt in present context of the world. Done? That is your choice. Which one you support? Whether you support the Malthusian or Neo Malthusian, and according to you, which you yes, and why not the other one? And which one you think that is, if this is Neo Malthusian you are supporting, then why? Because of the environment issues, because they also focus on the environment, and in the present situation when the climatic conditions are changing, we are at the global risk, climate risk. Then which one applies more? Okay. Demographic transition theory. There was a case, I was reading one article today, which actually said that the tariffs are going to be very detrimental, not for the trade, but also for the climate. Why so? Why it is so? Can you give me the examples? So, what will happen? This trade protectionism that people are doing, that the different countries are doing, it's very detrimental for the climate. How it is going to be detrimental for the climate? Detrimental means harmful. I mean, it's not going to, the climate risk will be more than. Why? What do you understand by global cooperation? Excellent. Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement में क्या? You're there only. Carbon trading, and then what? What about apart from that? In today's era, we are going to use more of the rare earth minerals, and rare earth minerals are more found in the countries like China, right? And when we have to export those minerals, then what will happen? Tariff has been imposed by Trump. Then what will happen then? No, they are not going to import that. It's even detrimental for the US as well. When the supply chain will disrupt, earlier, the kind of information, the kind of raw material which was sending to USA, for example, semiconductors, for example, your your major industries are in Southeast Asia only, right? Then what will happen? That will take time. That is what. If you are thinking of exploring your own, फिर तो खुद ही dependent हो जाते ना. If you have to become so self-reliant, then what is the concept? Why you have developed this concept of globalization? Keep your people then in your territory only. People should not talk to each other. What that is what. Earlier, the scholar has said what the world is going to be what global village. So these tariffs are also going to impact what. तो ये आप प्रेजेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप ऐसे यूज करते हैं कि कौन सी चीज आपको कैसे लिंक करनी है. सिमिलरली माल्थूस तो आपको ये यूज करना है कि किस तरह से उनका जो नियो माल्थूसियन अप्रोच है, दैट द थ्योरी is going to apply in the present context, right? Write down now demographic transition theory. I'll give you a brief discussion, the description about this theory. See, there are some stages of this theory. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. And these stages are basically, the first stage that we have is high infant rate and also high birth death rate. That means the population is balanced. Here, the population will get what? Balanced. right? In stage 2, there will be improvement in the birth rates. The population growth will increase due to certain factors, because of the better food, because of medical facilities, because of better incomes of the different people. In stage 3, again the population will decline. Why? Because of more literacy rate and awareness. And what else? Increase standard of living, right? So this is how we have to discuss the different stages, that how the expansion, and we have done the graphs of different stages. Now you will be able to understand, if I'm talking about that my population is going to increase like anything, then what will happen? This is expanding. This graph is of explosion. The explosion ka graph hai. It is going like this. Because my birth rate is increasing like this, the death rate is increasing. This is explosion. Right? Okay. Now write down. First we'll discuss, write down the phenomena in theory of demographic transition refers to the phenomena and theory of demographic transition refers to the historical shift in the historical shift in demographies from high birth rate and high infant death rates in societies with minimal technology, comma, education and economic development to demographies of low birth rates and low death rates in societies with advanced technology, comma, education and economic development. Next point. Although this shift has occurred in many industrialized countries, although this shift has occurred in many industrialized country, comma, the theory and model are frequently imprecise. Imprecise when applied to individual countries. That means theory do apply to different countries very nicely, but every country has different historical backgrounds and different factors. For example, political instability. For example, the social economic values. That could also be one of the reason for the death rates, etc. Right? Or the birth rate. So, हर चीज का difference हो सकता है. So, we have to also focus on other factors. Write down. कहाँ तक लिखा? Individual countries due to specific social, comma, political due to specific social, comma, political and economic factors and economic factors affecting particular population. Affecting particular population. Write down the history of the theory. History of the theory. The theory is based on an interpretation. The theory is based on an interpretation of demographic history developed in 1929 by the American demographer, by an American demographer Warren Thompson. It is in 1929 by Warren Thompson. Please underline Warren Thompson. By Warren Thompson. Full stop. Adolphe Landry of France. I'm writing the spelling. Adolphe Landry. Adolphe Landry of France. Adolphe Landry of France made similar observations. Made similar observations made similar observations made similar observations on demographic patterns and population growth in 1934. See, you have to mention all these scholars and demographers. You cannot just miss that. Whenever the theories are being asked, you have to mention them. In 1934, correct. Next point. In 1940s and 1950s, Frank W. Nortenstein. Frank W. Nortenstein. Do you see the spelling on the board? It's not. Nortenstein developed a more formal theory of demographic transition. Full stop. Next line. The transition involves 5 stages. The transition involves 5 stages or possibly 4 stages. The transition involves 5 stages, sorry, 4 stages. So primarily basically you are having the 4 stages only. Sometimes you do are converted into 5, possibly 5 stages. And majorly you will go for 4 stages only. First point, in stage 1, pre-industrial society. In stage 1, pre-industrial society. In stage 1, pre-industrial society, comma, death rates and the birth rates are high. Death rates and the birth rates are high and roughly in balance. And roughly in balance. Full stop. All human population all human populations are believed to have had this balance until 18th century. They had this balance until 18th century, comma, when this balance ended in Western Europe. When this balance ended in Western Europe. Full stop. The population growth is typically very less. The population growth is typically very less in this stage, comma, because the society is constrained by, because the society is constrained by, because the society is constrained by available food supply. The society is constrained by available food supply, comma, therefore, unless the society develops new technologies to increase food production, unless the society develops new technology to increase food production, comma, any fluctuations in birth rates would be soon matched by death rates. Write down the stage 2. Write down the stage 2. What is this stage 2 is as? Huh? Yes, reducing death rates. And how come? And also increasing the birth rates, but also decreasing the death rates. And how? By better food production. Right, famines will not be there, and also what won't be there? Droughts. When won't be there, then what will happen? People will have the better accessibility to food. Now write down developing country, comma, in developing country, comma, the death rate drops quickly due to improvement in due to improvement in food supply, due to improvement in food supply and sanitation, due to improvement in food supply and sanitation, comma, which increase the life expectancy, which increase the life expectancy and reduced the diseases, that increase the life expectancy and reduce the diseases. Next point, I mean continuation of this only, continuation. The improvements specific to food supply, the improvement specific to food supply includes selective breeding. It included selective breeding and selective breeding, crop rotation, crop rotation, and other farming techniques. Crop rotation and other farming techniques. Full stop. Next point. Numerous improvements in public health. Numerous improvements in public health reduce mortality. It reduced mortality, especially childhood mortality, especially childhood mortality. Right? In Europe, the death rates started declining in 18th century. In 18th century, in the northwestern Europe, and spread to the south and spread to the south. Write down the next stage, which is your stage number 3. Write down stage 3. Write down stage 3. What are the possibilities of stage 3? What will happen in stage 3? Again, the birth rates will decrease. Why? Because the standards, living standards of the people will increase. So what will happen? The cost of living will also increase. And the cost of living will also increase, then that will be more planned. Okay? Write down. In stage 3, the birth rates fall. In stage 3, the birth rate falls due to various fertility factors. Due to various fertility factors such as access to contraception, such as access to contraceptions, comma, increases in wages, comma, urbanization, comma, a reduction in subsistence agriculture, and increase in the status and education of women. An increase in the status and education of women. Full stop. Begins to, the population growth begins to level off. The population growth begins to level off. Full stop. The birth rate declined in developed countries. The birth rate declined in developed countries. Example, in Northern Europe, full stop. That's it. Write down the stage 4. Write down stage 4. During stage 4, there are both low birth rates and low death rates. During stage 4, there are both, see, here you are having low birth rates, right? Because of awareness, etc., contraceptions, right? But the death rate are also not that much high, but yes, comparatively higher than this. But here what will happen? Low birth rate and also low death rate. So what will happen? Stabilization of the population. Stabilization of population. Yes, opposite of stage 1, correct. Now which circle it will form? Which circle it will form? Hmm. Stable, right. Right down. During stage 4, there are both low birth rates and low death rates, full stop. Birth rates may drop to well below, birth rates may drop to well below replacement level. can drop below replacement level, can drop below replacement level, as has happened in the countries like Germany, Italy, Italy, and Japan. Germany, Italy, and Japan, leading to shrinking population, a threat to many countries, threat to many industries. Just remove the word countries, threat to many industries that rely on population growth. Full stop. As a large group born during the stage, as large group born during the stage, comma, it creates an economic burden. It creates an economic burden due to shrinking working population. Due to shrinking working population. Right? Full stop. Death rates may remain consistently low due to change in the lifestyle, full stop. By the late 20th century, it may get level of level of you will write double F, level of in developed countries. See, when you're talking about the below replacement rate, then you're moving towards what? Stage 5. जब आप कहते हो कि below replacement, this is like replacement rate फिर भी match कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे the replacement rate they are not able to match. That is below the replacement rate. Then comes the stage number 5. ठीक है? All right. So what criticism one would have of this? What is the criticism of this theory? Can you standardize this theory to each and every country? Can you say that this theory applies to each and every country? Because only certain factors are driving everything in the country. There are many things that drive the situation in the country. As I told you, the political instability is one driver. The second could be your social values, your social norms, your rituals, your culture that you are following, your mindset, everything, right? So that from the culture only the mindset comes. Otherwise, what was happening? What was the situation in India like before 50 years? What was happening? If you talk about 50 years before, what was the situation in India? The women were not that independent as they are today, right? So they had to do what? They have to do simply their no, what they were at individual level, what they were doing, household work because of the culture, right? They were doing their household chores, and then they were said that you have to marry, and then you have to do what? You have to take care of the children, you have to raise a family, that is your job. But now the situation has changed, right? So जब आप ये dynamics देखते हैं कि change हो रहे हैं, but ये same situation is not applicable in each and every country. Even within the country also you will have a lot of disparities. Some countries, some states, some parts of the country will be well developed, but some parts of the country won't be well developed. There are still rudimentary notions which are present in different parts of the country. There are still the same practices are being happening, right? Where the same practices are being accepted and they are being practiced by the people, right? So this is what is happening. So what will happen then? In that case, ये theories वहाँ पे apply नहीं करेंगी, right? So you cannot say that this is a standardized कि ऐसा ही हुआ है. Only in some cases definitely we can say that, for example Western Europe or maybe the Northern Europe, we can say that this situation has happened. But in the major part of Africa, or you can talk about within India also, in the major part this cannot be applied. Okay, even today also, right? Yes, it can, because see, if you're applying a theory, you also have to see the basic fundamental facts of that particular area. It is static. Hmm. Yes, yes, because it may not be universal, not be standardized. हर जगह नहीं apply हो सकती. When you call something as universal, it is true for every situation. If I say the sun rises in the east, then it's true for every situation. That is what you call universal. But universal तो है नहीं, right? So we will write the criticism tomorrow. We can have the discussion of the main points only. The first is sequences of the stages are not uniform. The second could be that the birth rates declined initially in urban areas. Rural areas में नहीं है, even in India also. You are thinking of that the parent should have only one child or two child. What about in rural areas? They are not practicing this. They do not know what is this concept is all about. Right? You can have as many as what is the capacity. We have done yesterday a word. What is that? Fecundity. What is that? Yes, 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 yes. That is what we were doing. Next is explanation of birth rate decline vary, and then theory of demographic transition is a generalization and not a theory. Okay, so that is what. Uh, so what you can do is you can write the question, or you can take as an assignment. Okay. Write down the question. Explain the demographic transition theory and describe its four stages. I'll discuss the PYQ of the same part tomorrow, if any. Okay. Four stages. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, class. Have you got the syllabus, Tanishka? Right now? Okay. This is
all complete.